Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen demands her boyfriend gets rid of gifts from his ex. Am I the jerk for wearing clothes and jewelry that my ex got for me? I have an ex, Anne, who was very wealthy, and she knew that I liked fashion, so she bought me a lot of presents. These included a gold chain, gold rings, a Tom Ford card holder, a Cartier watch, lots of clothes, cologne, etc. To clarify, I didn't ask for these presents, and I actively told her I didn't need them, but she gave them to me nevertheless, and they're nice presents, so I accepted them. She and I broke up, and I'm dating a new girl, H, now. The split with N was amicable, and we're still friendly. And besides, I'm a mostly broke college student, and I can't afford to replace the stuff she got for me, so I kept it. H takes issue with me wearing stuff that an ex got for me, and says that it's disrespectful to her. I don't think it's that deep. N gave me nice stuff, I like it, and currently I can't afford to replace it myself. And even when I can, what's the sense in spending lots of money on things that I already have for a symbolic gesture? H says that I'm the jerk. I think I'm just being practical. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your new girlfriend sounds insecure and controlling. I'd understand if the person who gave you this stuff hurt you or was mean to you in any way, but that's not the case. You got nice stuff from a nice person who wanted you to have it, and it's not like it's something that's easy to replace. Not the jerk. This is not about the clothes. It's about controlling you. Not the jerk. I think your new girlfriend has a lot of insecurities and they are not all invalid. That being said, she's almost certainly taking this too far. You should be allowed to have nice things that come from nice people even if the relationship changed. You're also allowed to toss your stuff out if you feel so inclined. She's also allowed to leave you over this, and you can as well. And if it comes to that, you know this person was not right for you. No jerks here. She has a right to express if that makes her uncomfortable. Whether or not that's controlling or insecure depends on your own personal view of the world. My fiance and I agree on this kind of stuff 100%. Neither of us are comfortable with the other wearing clothes or using things that were gifts from exes. We both feel it's disrespectful to us and our relationship, so we got rid of all that kind of stuff. We don't think we're being controlling. We think we're being understanding of each other's feelings as you're supposed to in a relationship. If you're not willing to get rid of some clothes that an ex got for you in order to make your girlfriend feel respected, then you aren't worth her time. Am I the jerk because I won't watch anything more complicated than a Hallmark movie with my wife? I love my wife. She's intelligent, sweet, and beautiful inside and out. She teaches high school English and social studies, loves novels, and usually has several on the go at once. However, she can't follow the plot of a movie to save her life, unless it's about a big city lawyer visiting her hometown to shut down the local factory only to reconnect with her high school boyfriend, who also happens to be the local baker and mayor. I've known this about her for years and I've accepted it. I enjoy relaxing with her, so I'm happy to sit through yet another movie about rediscovering the magic of Christmas or whatever. When we were dating, we watched The Matrix. The question she asked made me question if we were watching the same movie. It's the same story with anything complex. Even The Usual Suspects, which practically spells out the ending, left her totally lost. On Friday, we invited her sister and brother-in-law over for a couple's night. We made supper, and the plan was to watch a movie. Her sister suggested Shutter Island. Without spoiling anything, I'll say it has many twists, and the ending is fantastic. I did my best to suggest anything else. The new Laura Dern movie, the one where she dates the guy from Hunger Games, but they all ganged up on me and insisted on Shutter Island. Predictably, my wife got lost in the plot. She started asking questions that, to put it kindly, did not show her in the best light. Her sister and brother-in-law looked at her like she was a simple jack. I tried to cover for her by saying I'd explain later, but she got frustrated and demanded answers right then and there. After they left, she confronted me. She said she had noticed that we always watch a certain type of movie together and assumed that I liked them. I told her I did enjoy them because it meant spending time together, and that made me happy. She insisted she wasn't an idiot. She just didn't focus on movies the same way. To prove her point, she rattled off the plots of several novels with ease. I assured her I'd never questioned her intelligence and even told her she was smarter than I am, but she still felt hurt, saying I was a jerk for not watching movies I actually enjoy with her. So to make it up to her, we watched Memento today. I could see her head practically spinning as she tried to hold back her questions. Eventually, I caught her sneaking a look at Wikipedia to read the plot. Am I the jerk for intentionally not watching complicated movies with my wife? No jerks here. I can understand why you picked movies you could both enjoy, and I can see why she might be a bit upset at the miscommunication. Having said that, maybe she's already found the solution to the problem. You both watch the complex movie together, and then she reads the plot summary so she can process the information in a way that makes sense to her. Then she doesn't have to ask questions and you can both enjoy movies together. Depending on how her brain works, she might even enjoy reading the plot summary first and then watching it with you. She might be able to enjoy the movie even more. It'd be like when you watch a movie about a book you read, but this time everything is accurate because the book is the plot summary. Have you tried turning on the captions? She might process information by reading, so that could help her. Also, if you always watch with them on, maybe that's what's distracting her. I know I missed some scenes because I'm busy reading. I have to rewind it a bit. You're the jerk. There are so many good movies out there, but all of your examples are from the 2% of movies that are deliberately confusing or known for their plot twists. If you look at IMDb's best movies of all time, while I strongly disagree with the list, I'm sure she'd be fine the majority of the movies on there. It comes across like you're searching hard for ways to put her down. You're embarrassed by her because she didn't get the plot twist for Shutter Island. She likes to watch movies. It's an activity you do with friends, but she's only capable of movies that are famously stupid? Am I the jerk for giving my ring back after my fiancé made a comment to his guy friends regarding why we haven't gotten married? My fiancé and I, both 30, have been together for 8 years and engaged for 4. We got engaged just before lockdown, which obviously put a huge halt on any wedding plans, and then from there, life got even more complicated. We went through a period of homelessness, ended up pregnant, and had our baby. Thankfully, we're back on our feet now, though we're not yet where we'd like to be financially. About 5 months ago, I brought up marriage again and suggested having a backyard wedding and a potluck, just something small and affordable. I don't need an expensive wedding. I just want a pretty dress for all eyes to be on us and to marry the love of my life. I don't care about the bells and whistles. He thought that was a decent idea and suggested maybe planning for July of 2025. We left it at that as life got busy again and we haven't really discussed it since. Then, about a year ago, we were at our neighbor's house. We've grown close to them over the last year and a half. I was hanging out with the neighbor's wife and her best friend while my fiancé was having beers with a group of guys working on vehicles. One of the guys mentioned his wife and said, "Once you're married, everything stops." I overheard my fiancé laughing and replying, "That's why I've been dragging my feet on marriage," followed by laughter from the other guys and comments like, "Don't do it, man, it's a trap." Hearing that really hurt, but I tried to brush it off as locker room talk. Still, I couldn't shake it. So a couple of weeks ago, I brought up the idea of marriage again, just casually asking about wedding details like colors. He shut down almost immediately, saying something along the lines of, "I think we need to weigh the pros and cons of being married first," and ended the conversation. That comment hit me hard. I walked outside to calm myself down, but couldn't shake the feeling that his heart just wasn't in it. And thinking it over, I went back inside, handed him my ring, and asked him what he wanted for dinner. I stayed calm, no yelling or crying, but he looked stunned and asked what I was doing. I explained that his comments to his friends about dragging his feet and now his talk of weighing the pros and cons made it clear he might have changed his mind about marriage. I told him I don't want to hold on to hope for something that he didn't truly want, and I'd rather let go of the idea of marriage altogether. We could still be together, but I didn't want to cling to the possibility of a wedding if he wasn't sure. He got extremely defensive, saying things like, "I'm not saying it's not going to happen," and "You're being extreme for no reason." But to me, his words and actions speak volumes. I'm left feeling unsure about where we stand and even less sure of what he truly wants. Am I the jerk? You called him out, and now, apparently, he's going to backtrack instead of double down. Don't fall for it, OP. If you marry him, if he begged you to, theoretically, he'll just resent you for it. Honestly, people are so silly because having a baby together is way more of a commitment than a marriage, and you've been together 8 years already. He's still afraid of verbally committing? This paperwork and a single party is the line in the sand for him? The law already considers you married anyway, so it can't be divorce settlements he's worried about. He just doesn't want the commitment of marriage. Good for you for making it clear what the relationship is, and if you had the finances for it, I'd say leave and just co-parent because you deserve a partner who loves you enough to make that choice, not the jerk. I'd really start to reconsider spending the rest of your life with him. I think you just lost respect for him, and don't be surprised if the love follows. I found that it's impossible to love someone whom you can't respect. I find it impossible to love someone who strings you along without telling you the truth about what they want. Don't be surprised if you end up not liking him anymore and not wanting to spend your life with them. It's okay to move on if you hit that point. Are they wrong though? Maybe ask men in real life about this and their experience after getting married. I joke with my friends and coworkers about this all the time because it's true. My brother, our dad, my cousins, we all have agreed that this is exactly how it happened with us when we got married. Am I the jerk for permanently destroying my cousin's hand-me-down wedding dress? I, 18 female, am getting married in the middle of October to my boyfriend who's 19. We're planning a smaller scale wedding with mostly friends and family. Given that we both have large extended families, planning for that many people has definitely been a challenge. To give you an idea on the scale, my mom alone has 7 siblings, each with kids of their own. With a limited budget, I looked into redesigning or upcycling a wedding gown instead of putting a huge amount towards a brand new dress. I mentioned my plans to a couple of people and began browsing options when my mom's oldest sister's daughter, my cousin Megan, reached out to me. Megan, who's 40, got married in 2015, but the marriage didn't last long and she divorced soon after. I barely remember her husband as he never attended family gatherings, and Megan and my mom aren't particularly close, so I was surprised she would offer me something so significant after so long without much contact. Regardless, Megan offered to give me her wedding dress since it was in my size, knowing we were working with a small budget. I loved the idea and the dress was beautiful. I made sure she was comfortable giving it to me rather than loaning it, and she assured me that it held no emotional significance and that she'd be happy to let it go. I thanked her and I took the dress home. One thing to know about me is that I'm a pretty chaotic seamstress. I make most of my own clothes. While I loved the original dress, I wanted to make some small changes to the hem, the neckline, to fit my theme better. My dress had a super full skirt with a long hem, and since my wedding was outdoors, I didn't want it dragging in the dirt. So I removed a few layers underneath, took off the trim, and removed the sleeves to tighten the bodice. I was thrilled with how it turned out, and my mom and friends agreed that it looked perfect. Then the trouble started. My mom had taken a picture of me in the dress and sent it to Megan with another thank you message. Megan responded with a cold comment over text and then called me later that night. She said I should have asked her permission before ruining her dress, and that if I found it so ugly, I should have bought my own. I tried to explain that the changes were minor and reminded her that I'd asked if she wanted the dress back, but she blew up, saying it was too different and that she'd never be able to wear it again, even though she had said she didn't want it and wasn't planning on remarrying. I asked what she wanted me to do, and she snapped that it was too late. She hung up, and apparently she's been telling people I trashed her wedding dress and went out of my way to embarrass her by outshining her original look. I don't know what to do. The wedding is too close to start from scratch, and I really wanted something unique and personal for my wedding day. Her mother called both me and my mom, accusing me of being a spoiled brat who took advantage of Megan's kindness and generosity. My parents and a few family members think I should uninvite Megan and just wear the dress, but my aunt insists that I would break Megan's heart if I didn't find something else. Should I give up on the dress and look for another option? For context, Megan and I are not close, partly due to the age gap and our very different lifestyles. Megan is the 3rd cousin out of 21. I'm the 9th. As the first girl in the family, Megan grew up under a lot of pressure and ended up marrying a guy that wasn't good for her. After her divorce, she went through a transformative period, reevaluating her life, job, and appearance. She's no longer an active participant in family events, showing up only for important occasions like birthdays, funerals, and weddings. Despite this, we've always been civil and kind towards each other. The alterations I made were limited to the skirt and bodice. Her claim that I trashed the dress likely came from my decision to remove the sleeves and raise the hem to T-length, which now exposes my ankles. Some have pointed out that Megan's anger might be tied to her self-esteem, as she's changed physically over the years. While she still looks beautiful, I can see how these feelings might have contributed to her reaction. Update. Yesterday, my fiancé told me that Megan had reached out to him, feigning concern that my homemade dress sent the wrong message about our wedding. She had the nerve to ask if he was sure he wanted to marry a woman who wouldn't put in the effort to get a proper dress. This is after I spent weeks making sure every stitch was perfect. Thankfully, my fiancé wasn't fazed. He told her I'd put more effort into the dress than she had into her marriage, which shut her up fast. She's now spreading rumors to my elderly grandparents, her mother, and other cousins, calling me a trashy jerk with a cheap shotgun wedding. I'm not pregnant, by the way, and claiming my fiancé is only interested in our family's money. My fiancé is a mechanic who's doing very well and earns a good salary, but she still insists he's beneath her. Some older cousins, the ones I don't see as often, started expressing doubts about attending the wedding, but I've managed to reassure them these rumors are not true. After all of this, I decided to message Megan and let her know she's no longer invited to the wedding due to her insults and the negativity she's brought into what should be a happy time in my life. She snapped that she wouldn't attend my pathetic excuse for a wedding and that she can't wait to see how I act when he leaves. I'm pretty sure my relationship with Megan will not recover, but at this point, I don't regret a thing. Here's hoping everything calms down so I can go into my big day free from negativity. My boyfriend keeps humiliating himself at events. What can I do? My boyfriend and I met in college in 2018 and were together from age 20 to 24. We split up because he lost his job and refused to get a new one, making me cover our rent for 5 months. During this time, he was very unpleasant to be around, especially when I brought him to parties. Sometimes he would insult people, other times he would start fights. This behavior became frequent enough that friends would explicitly ask me to not bring him to gatherings. After one particularly bad party where he got drunk and screamed and tried to start a physical fight, he swore he would get help. He said he realized how mortifying his behavior was and promised he would never again put me in that position. When we finally split up in 2022, it was amicable. We remained cordial and respectful towards each other, and he insisted he would make every effort to become the man I needed him to be. We come from very different backgrounds. I grew up in a stable, middle-class family while he grew up in a dysfunctional, impoverished household. He's the only person in his family to earn a college degree, and he's extremely intelligent. However, he's also quite jaded and sometimes resents our classmates and even our friends. After we broke up, he moved away to work for an international tech company while I stayed in my field and built up a strong network of friends and colleagues. Earlier this summer, we ran into each other during a night out, and he seemed to be in a much better place than when I last saw him. We went on a few dates, and I noticed a marked change in his behavior and maturity. Over the next few months, we rekindled our relationship. I was initially hesitant, especially given how extreme his behavior had been at parties in the past. He assured me that those days were behind him and promised to make every effort to be the partner I needed. Ultimately, I believed he had changed. Recently, my workplace held a launch party that I couldn't attend because I was sick. A coworker, Janice, who's friends with my boyfriend, invited him to the event. Another coworker, Annie, is dating an old classmate of my boyfriend's. When my boyfriend discovered Annie was with his former classmate, he started making a lot of jokes at the guy's expense. Annie got very upset and yelled at him. It turned out my boyfriend used to bully her boyfriend to the point where he had to change schools to get away from him. My boss saw how my boyfriend was speaking to Annie and asked him to leave the event, ultimately banning him from the premises. When my boyfriend recounted what happened, he claimed my boss had attacked him for being from a working-class background. I was skeptical, but he was adamant that he did nothing wrong, meant no offense, and was simply misunderstood. Last weekend, we went to a mutual friend's Halloween party. This friend was someone we met in college, and I was actually introduced to him by my boyfriend. I left my boyfriend alone for about 15 minutes while I caught up with other friends. When I found him again, he was with the host, who told us that several people had complained that my boyfriend had insulted them. The following day, I received a message from the host explaining that while I was always welcome in his home, my boyfriend was no longer allowed to attend events there. When I confronted my boyfriend about this, he initially laughed it off. I reminded him that his behavior was a deal breaker when we got back together. He promised to look into therapy, but I told him his actions were completely unacceptable. By now, he's been banned from at least 5 homes, businesses, or events. I asked for a few days to think about our future. Since then, he's been asking me not to leave him and even sent flowers. I don't want to leave him, but I fear that staying with him will continue to isolate me from my friends and colleagues. I hate how he acts, and I have asked him to change repeatedly. He insists that he will, but I've been put through this cycle with him enough times to have low expectations. I love him deeply, but I can't let him ruin my life. I mean, you're still with him? That's not enough for you to leave him? Learn to respect yourself more and realize your worth. That's my advice. I really don't see how you're asking for advice. It's pretty clear-cut. You made it clear this was a deal breaker. It would be a deal breaker for almost any rational human. If you stay with this guy, you're an idiot. He's an antisocial jerk who will repel anyone who ever gets close to him and anyone who gets close to you if you're with him. You said you would only get back together if he changed. He didn't, so leave. And he won't. So don't believe his BS when he promises you the world if you'll just take him back again. Put him in the past for good. My husband doesn't know I'm about to divorce him. This has been my plan for 6 years. It's definitely the craziest thing I've done, and I can hardly believe I endured all this time with him just to survive financially. In the beginning, our marriage was wonderful. We had 2 babies together, but after my second pregnancy, he cheated on me with a very close family member. His apology was lazy at best, and to make things worse, he complained about how I looked. Secretly, I consulted a family lawyer, and it was clear. Leaving him at that time would have left me struggling. We only had $25,000 in savings, no marital assets, and I had no job, being a stay-at-home mom. I applied for countless jobs, but I found nothing. Leaving back then would have been a terrible financial decision, especially with 2 kids, and alimony and child support would not have been enough to survive on. So I let him believe I forgave him and continued playing the role of his wife. His first affair was with my cousin. Later, he cheated again, this time with someone he met for a one-time hookup. Out of pure anger, I cheated back, though I was smart enough to never let him find out. During this time, I focused on getting my independence back. He paid for my trade school, which was a costly program, but he covered it all, and I used that to build my future. We moved, and he bought a house with his income. Over the years, his earnings increased significantly, which meant we built up more financial stability than when I first considered leaving. Recently, I started working, and I finally have a career of my own, which makes me so happy. I haven't filed for divorce yet, and he has no idea what's coming, but I'm excited. I'm finally in a position to leave after nearly 7 years. Now I can walk away with at least $200,000 along with marital assets like the house and the car he paid off. I've worked on my education, my independence, and even my health. I lost 66 pounds thanks to the weight loss treatment he paid for. I look amazing, and I don't doubt I'll eventually remarry. Finally, everything in my life is falling into place. ETA, for those upset about me cheating back, what did you expect? For me to stay loyal to someone who had multiple affairs? You think I'm just supposed to go without hooking up for almost a decade? That's laughable. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law to shut it about Bridgerton because I hate it? I, 25 female, went wedding dress shopping a few days ago. It was crazy. My fiancé is from a religious family, and it was important for him to get married at his family's church. It's not something I always wanted for myself, but his family is helping to pay for the ceremony, and this means a lot to him. The problem is that his mom insists that I get a modest wedding dress. I tried on a bunch of dresses that were modest, and I hated them. I don't like puffy sleeves. I hate looking covered up. I look like Princess Leia if she were from Alabama, not Alderaan. This is not what I wanted. It was my mom, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, and my maid of honor at the bridal shop. They were trying to cheer me up, but I wasn't having it. My sister-in-law, Peggy, was the worst. She loves shows like Bridgerton. Anyone who knows me knows I can't stand that show. She kept hyping up how my dress makes me look like someone from that show. After 4 or 5 dresses, I was fed up and wanted to call it quits, but she wanted me to try on one more. I snapped at her. I told her to shut up about Bridgerton, and I don't want to hear about that show again for the rest of the day. We ended up leaving after this. Peggy was upset, and she and her mom just left. My mom is upset with me and said that what I did was not acceptable. I'm just frustrated because it feels like everyone is hijacking the whole wedding process, and I don't even have a say about what I want. It's like this wedding is more about what Peggy and my mother-in-law want. Sounds like you're marrying into a controlling family. Is that what you really want? OP, I'm going to be honest. The last few months, I've been thinking that I don't want to get married, at least not right now. You might want to bring that up with your fiancé really soon then. Not the jerk. Red flag. I'm afraid OP is going to end up doing a lot of things she doesn't want to because of the family's church. Please, please, please think this through, OP. Yeah, I really don't get wedding posts like this. I'd rather just elope to the courthouse and get married than have someone else pay for me to have their big fancy dream wedding. Karen closes down my street so her kids and dogs can play in the road. I live on the end of a cul-de-sac in a newer built neighborhood. I've been here for over 5 years now. I'm the only person in the cul-de-sac that doesn't have kids, as I'm a single female. The mamas usually close off the cul-de-sac every morning, sometimes during the day too when it's nice out, and they allow their kids and dogs to play all over the street and my yard, driveway, and porch. There are 8 kids in total, ranging from ages 1 to 6. The problem is that this is usually when I'm coming home from work after a long day. The mamas expect me to park on the street and walk to my home and then come back later when they're done and get my car in the garage. And I'm not doing this. There's typically toys and various types of tricycles laying all over the road. The parents and kids are also in the road, and nobody will move from my car as I maneuver around all the obstacles. I've installed security cameras and planted barriers around my property to discourage the trespassers. However, they just throw my mulch, ride bikes through my flower beds. Their dogs have urinated so frequently on my plants that they are now deceased, and they defecate in my yard and leave it. The kids have messed up my cars and broken many things, electrical items. Their 1-year-old is frequently found on my porch, and I mean multiple times a day. It's only my yard this happens to. However, yesterday was the last straw. I was coming home and the road was closed as usual for their makeshift mommy and me time. I drove around the obstacles and pulled up in my driveway. 2 kids, maybe about 5 or 6, ran up in my car between me and the garage door, and they held out their hands so I couldn't pull up. They were blocking my path. Yes, they were in my driveway about a foot from my garage door. The mamas see it happen and do nothing. Next thing I know, a mama is running over, screaming at me that I'm driving too fast up my driveway. She was referencing how the kids play in the yard in the driveway, and I'm putting them in danger and banging her fists on my door. I then woke up this morning to find she had made a large sign that said, "No speeding, kids at play," and put it in my yard facing my front door. I did make a call to the police, but they said there's really nothing they can do for neighbor disputes, even though they're trespassing and closing roads. Is this right? How else can I handle this? What would you do? Am I truly in the wrong here? I've spoken to them before, and they've just suggested that I move if I can't be in the village that helps raise the kids. Should I report this? The neighbors all agree that I'm the problem here, and they're ganging up on me, as they feel I should park and wait and allow the kids to play on my property. I even have security footage of a parent instructing their kid to steal from my property to teach me a lesson because I planted barriers. This is why I live in the country. Neighborhoods just suck, and I don't know why people put up with living there. Houses extremely close to each other, high crime rates, no views of nature, loud, obnoxious neighbors playing dumb music, extreme bass rattling your walls when you're trying to sleep, kids screaming outside all hours of the day, cars with loud engines and motorcycles, dogs barking nonstop, parties all hours of the night. I'd pick these snakes and coyotes over that mess any day. Most people want to stay in the city so they're closer to their job, but a longer work commute has always seemed worth it to me to save my sanity. Nothing is better than sitting on the back porch in the morning drinking my coffee without another soul in sight as far as the eye can see. This is how we were meant to live, not in boxes stacked next to each other or on top of one another. How I complied my way out of a parking ticket. A few years ago, I parked in a paid parking lot, but forgot to buy a parking ticket. When I came back a few minutes later, I discovered an $80 ticket on my dash. While I was frustrated about my own forgetfulness, the ticket itself was fair. However, I came to discover that the amount they had charged me was not. Before leaving the lot, I noticed a small detail on the terms and conditions sign at the entrance of the lot. It said that a failure to pay for a parking ticket would result in a $70 ticket, not the $80 ticket that I was charged. While I'm no lawyer, I do know that those signs essentially create an implicit contract upon entering the lot. Therefore, the company was technically violating their own contract by charging me extra. I appealed the ticket, stating that I would be happy to pay the agreed upon $70, but it was rejected. I then reached out directly to customer service, explaining the same situation. They rejected my request to pay the valid $70 because their ticket amounts are non-negotiable. Cue the malicious compliance. I realized that by their own words, they are the ones attempting to negotiate the price by charging me an extra $10. So I called up the supervisor of their claims department. She was already aware of this dispute and immediately attempted to shut me down, saying, "The signage is not up for discussion." I reminded her that their company's policy states that ticket amounts are non-negotiable and that given what the terms on the sign stated, they were trying to negotiate a higher price. Once again, she shut me down, stating the signage is not up to discussion. The rest of the conversation went something like this. Me: "So, where can I escalate this from here?" Her: "There is no more escalation. Next stage is court." Me: "Seems silly to go to court over $10, don't you think?" Her: "Yeah, it does." Me: "Okay, well, I'll begin the small claims court process over the non-negotiable price issue then." Her: "Okay." I was having fun at this point, and I was fully ready to start taking legal steps over this $10 on a matter of principle, and knowing that if I did, the company would immediately cave. Before doing that, however, I sent one final email to the vice president of the company. I explained the whole dispute, explained the signage, their non-negotiable policy, and how the appeal supervisor told me my next step was to take it to court. I offered them the opportunity to resolve this civilly before going on to that stage. Not even 3 hours later, I got an email back stating that my ticket had been fully cleared as a courtesy. I called their bluff, maliciously complying to the contract and the take it to court attitude, and it worked. As an added bit of pettiness, I replied thanking them and CC'd the appeal supervisor. I then directly addressed her, telling her that this is how easy it could have been resolved if she would have just actually addressed the signage issue. The moral of the story: push back against parking lot companies. They use shady practices and try to scare people into paying unjustly. Often a simple but credible legal threat will make any issue disappear. And as some have pointed out, yes, these parking tickets aren't usually enforceable. That being said, if I ever wanted to use this lot again, which is the only one in the area, then I would have to get it resolved, lest I get towed. Also, I can't recall exactly how the appeals woman brought up court, but I don't think she implied that I should sue. I think it was more of a veiled, "We will sue you" statement, which was of course a bluff. Regardless, as many pointed out, her mentioning court at all was a bad idea on their part. My boyfriend asked his ex-girlfriend to make a workout plan for me that would make me look like her. I, 20 female, and my boyfriend Alex, 22 male, met 3 years ago, but we started dating 10 months ago. When I first met Alex 3 years ago, we were both in separate relationships. At the time, he was dating Ellie, 22, female. Alex and I had a mutual friend back then and would often meet in a group setting with our partners and a few more couples. We both got out of our own relationships at the same time a year ago and then hit it off. Ellie works out a lot, and Alex and her would often go to the gym together back when they dated. She has a slim, thick body type with a flat stomach, bigger thighs, and slim arms. She's very pretty, and it's hard not to be jealous. Her figure almost looks like a real-life Mrs. Incredible. I, on the other hand, am slim and thin. I'm just tall, skinny, and no curves. I don't mind the way I look. Alex never seemed to dislike the way I looked either. He had asked me one time before if I wanted to get a gym membership and work out with him, but I said no, and he never asked again. Yesterday, Ellie reached out to me through Instagram and asked if I had talked to Alex about wanting to start working out. I said no because I hadn't. I was a bit confused and asked why she was asking me. She then proceeded to send me multiple screenshots of conversations with Alex. He had asked her to put together a workout plan and a meal plan that would make my body look like hers. He told Ellie that it was my idea and that I had asked him to ask her. I never did. He was also very strict with making sure that she sent the plan to him and not me. Ellie thought this was a little suspicious and decided to ask me before she made the plan. I haven't told him that I know about it, and I genuinely don't know where to go from here. I feel so insecure now. Ellie has been an absolute saint through this and has really tried to make me feel pretty, although it doesn't work. Alex is apparently not happy with the way I look. Not only does he want me to change, but he wants me to look like his ex. I love this guy so much, and he's been absolutely perfect until now. Am I overreacting? Edit. He's my ex-boyfriend now. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.